In this video, we're going to cover some of the common problems that people come across while initially setting up their vendors. This can include vendors that get stuck in pending, customer versus XOLights maintained vendors, and a few other things that you should be aware of. So in order to set vendors up, you first need to log in as an administrator, and then we'll go to Admin and Vendors here. Now here's the vendor list for this particular system. You can see that the status for most of the vendors here is verified. Verified is good. That's what you want to see. It means that the data for that vendor has been turned on and is beginning to come across onto this XOLights site. There are two other statuses that you may see when you add a vendor. The first one is initializing. That typically happens right after you add a vendor, and it means that the data is working on transferring over. It's not quite completed yet. Usually that status only lasts a couple of minutes. If it lasts more than an hour, please contact client services to help you with that issue. The other status that you may see is pending. Pending means that the vendor has been added, but the data is not coming across to the site. There are a couple of reasons that may happen. First of all, if you've left your account number blank, that will happen because it is required to get your account number in there for the data to turn on. Now, in rare cases, there may be vendors who don't use account numbers, in which case you should use a filler of some sort, like I have here when I put in 1, 2, 3, 4. In any case, the account number field cannot be blank in order for the data to come across. Now, in some cases, such as this one that you see right here, I have an account number in. This is an XOLights maintained vendor, and the status still says pending. The reason for that is some vendors do require an authentication process in order to turn their data on for your site. This is done by the vendor's request. Typically, the way to resolve this problem is to contact the vendor and tell them that you would like to get their data on your XOLights site. They will then send an email or a fax or some sort of other notification to us at XOLights letting us know that you have permission to display their data, at which point we will go on and manually turn on that data for your site. Another common issue with the vendors is confusion over the different price lists. As I scroll through, you do see some vendors with more than one price list, such as Corbett here. You can see they have green and yellow, and what the vendors call their different price lists will vary based on the vendor. Here, Corbett has green and yellow. These are actually different pricing scales. One would probably be a stocking pricing scale, where the other would be a non-stocking. If you're not sure which one you're on, a lot of times the price sheet you receive from the vendor will either say which one it is or be the actual color of the price list that you should add. If you are not sure though, your vendor rep should be able to tell you which one you're on. You don't want to add both of them, or else you'll end up with the same products in your catalog with two different pricing scales. So you figure out which one you're on and add only that one. Another thing to be aware of is XO-supported versus customer-maintained vendors. XO-supported vendors are vendors that are taken care of by our data team. Our data team puts in the latest price lists, they add the new items, and then they will fix any catalog issues that we come across. The customer-maintained vendors, on the other hand, are vendors that were not necessarily even put in by XOLights. Frequently, these are vendors that one of our showrooms really needed to have in their XOLights system that we didn't maintain. The customer-maintained vendors can typically be put in using a spreadsheet and an image file, and this process is called vendor item upload. There are training resources on that on the training site, so please feel free to look into that if that's something that interests you. One thing to be aware of with customer-maintained vendors is XOLights does not guarantee any of the pricing or the data, because these are vendors that are put in and maintained by other showrooms out there. So some of these are very diligently maintained and up to date, and some of them have not been updated for quite some time. And it is up to you, if you're going to add one of these, to make sure that everything is up to date and to your standards. If they're not, you can update them with a spreadsheet. And again, there is training resources, or you can request a training on that. Customer maintained vendors will appear in XOLights as green, just like this one right here. And then where the other ones say XOLights, they say customer, meaning customer maintained. Another common issue that we come across with the initial vendor setup is people fail to put in the discounts for retail only vendors. So let me just talk for a second about what retail only means. Most vendors will provide a price list with both dealer's net, in other words your cost, and retail pricing. However, there are some vendors out there that do not provide dealer's net or cost on their spreadsheets, such as Besa, Tech, Curry, LBL. There's a handful of them out there. They're really more the exception rather than the rule. But for ones like that, they just provide retail pricing, and then they'll tell your showroom how much to discount in order to get their pricing accurate. I pulled up Besa here because they are an example of a vendor that operates this way. So since the discounts vary by showroom, it's up to you to figure out what your discount should be and get it in there. If your discount is 50%, you'll just type in 50% here in the vendor discount and submit the vendor after you've put in your account number and other information. And then when you look at the cost in the system, your cost will be accurate, and you can even set a markup based on the costs that are calculated from your discount. Now, one thing some of these retail-only vendors do is give you 2 discounts rather than 1. So, for example, they may say 50 plus 10. That means 50% off of retail and a 10% discount off of the remaining 50%. If you have 2 discount numbers to put in, what you do is you calculate out what that total discount is and put that in. So in the example I gave, that would be 55%. And I just put it in as a single percentage. And then again, you just submit it and it will calculate your cost for you, and you will be able to see those in the system pretty much immediately. These are some of the main things that you really need to be cautious about when setting up your vendors. Just making sure that you have the correct price sheets, you have the correct discounts, you have your account numbers, and you're also being conscientious of customer maintained versus XOLights maintained vendors as you add new vendors into your list. If you need any additional help, please feel free to contact our client services department at clientservices@xolights.com, or to use any of the additional resources on the training site.